Hello and welcome everyone to DRJ's webinar series. I am Bob Arnold, President here at Disaster Cover Journal. Today's sponsor is Perpetuuiti, and the topic is Unveiling the Future, a special preview of the first generative AI platform for operational resilience. Before we get started here today, I want to review a couple housekeeping items. Today's session is being recorded. This recording will be shared with everyone tomorrow via an automated email. Attendees are also in a listen-only mode. If you'd like to ask any questions, please use the question panel you'll locate on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll answer as many of these questions as possible at the end of the session. And now back to today's topic on unveiling the future. Our presenter today is Sean Blevins. For more than 30 years across Microsoft, Oracle, SAP, and Booz Allen Hamilton, Sean has been leading innovations in software-driven continuity and resilience with a focus on AI and machine learning. Sean is the Chief Revenue Officer and Head of North America for Perpetuuiti. And with no further introductions, I'd like to now welcome and turn the mic over to Sean.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me, Bob?
I can.
All right, good deal. I am so excited to have this time with you today. You are the first people to get a unveiling a preview of what is the next generation of operational resilience. We have been working on this nonstop, feverishly behind the scenes. It seems like forever in order to bring this new paradigm to market. And the folks on this call are the first ones to see this. And this is software. This is not consulting. This is not something that's scripting. This thing is something that is deployed, it's used, it's supported as a product, and it represents truly a shift from the way things have been done until the way things will be done going forward. So thank you for your time today. Thank you for taking the time with us. And to get started, sometimes a video is worth 1,000 words. You won't be able to hear the music or things like that, but I want to take a minute and kind of let you see a little bit of how this thing all plays out and what it actually looks like. So you'll get the hang of it. Then we'll come back and we'll go into it in more depth. But what we have done here is recreated the most comprehensive operational resiliency platform that's available in the market today. It's the difference between using a phone and using a smartphone and speaking to Siri if Siri was now tied in with generative AI. So the actual creation, management, proactive execution just by speaking. So here we're going to introduce you to two different bots today, two different generative AI bots. First, there's Dave. He manages it from an engineering perspective. He manages our entire IP library, all of our different best practices across all of our customers. He's our resiliency engineer. You speak to him. Then there's Lisa. Lisa is our resiliency assistant. She is not a technologist, but she manages and understands all of the complexity of what's been deployed, all your key applications, where you sit with resilience, where you sit with your drilling, and can tell you with a simple question, a simple natural language conversation, where you sit. So no more endless clicking, no more having to go through here and try and figure out where things are. All of those things that you needed multiple people and multiple time are now simply done by talking and having a meaningful natural language conversation with Dave and Lisa. Here you see Dave's asking some basic questions about your environment and generating a workflow on the fly to do a switchover and a failover. And beyond that, we've looked at this holistically across every part of resilience. And we're going to show you how we manage that, not just from the bots. The bots are the most, game-changing part of this, but from the way that you manage resilience overall. So let's take a look at this. And I want to show you how we got here, what the legacy has been to get us here, and where you can be with us now, starting today. You can benefit from all the heritage of all of our customers and all the things that they've experienced and the lessons that we personally have learned across all this. So we started in 2011. We were funded by Intel Capital. They're our largest shareholder today. We have over 450 enterprise customers and 80 global partnerships, 2 flagship products, Continuity Patrol you can see today. We are adding the same holistic generative AI capabilities into our other flagship product, Vault. We'll show you that another time. 500 employees, and just a lot of investment in R&D. And as far as our customers go, you'll recognize them: Vodafone, Delta Airlines, Pepsi, Jaguar, Land Rover, Bombay Stock Exchange, over 150 global banks, the largest banks in the world: Bank of Dubai, Bank of India, Central Bank of India, um, Australian National Bank, as well as companies in the government and manufacturing space, Emerson, Fiat. Everyone knows that we manage very complex, large organizations and have for many years across their resilience efforts. What's changed is now you're in control. You don't need no massive, you don't need a massive ongoing service effort. You don't need to write scripts anymore. You don't even need to manage the workflows. All of that's done for you, and you'll see it as we go forward. Now, the question is why? Why are we investing with all our customers to do this? Well, it's because things become more and more complex as we go. I'll give you an example. Last fall, and the stakes keep getting higher. So last fall, Southwest had a very simple network failure. They had a program, a 30-year-old program that matched flight attendants with pilots. And it said, these are the packages of people that need to go onto a particular plane in order to make this flight. That technology failure, for that simple program, grounded and halted all departures of Southwest flights for about a day, maybe a day and a half. And that simple technical glitch turned into a man-made disaster. Now, that man-made disaster, it kept a lot of people in the holidays from getting to see their families. But in the past, that would have been a hit for the company in customer sat. Obviously Reuters did this media, but the stakes have risen. What we see now, and this just came out in December, is Southwest was actually fined by the government $140 million for last year's meltdown. And they already paid out, if you read this article, they'd already paid out over $600 million to reimburse and refund stranded travelers. So they're out $1 billion because they couldn't fail over and didn't have a backup application ready to run quick enough so those planes could keep flying. And that is a big deal. It isn't that other companies don't have the issues that use perpetuity. It's the question of, from the time that you need to make an executive decision to the ability that you can get back to operations. If you're dependent upon, in today's complexity, human beings to do that, if you're dependent upon an understanding of your environment to do that, the time frame for that is such that Reuters is going to get a hold of it long before you get back to operations. And in this case, that's what happened. 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours went by, and then now it's $140 million from the government plus $600 million to those passengers. Here's why this keeps happening. These are the reasons that our customers tell us it's just too complex. I don't think anybody on this call is solely responsible for DR and BCP. The processes that run, the procedures and the drills and the runbooks that run, they involve dozens of people, and depending on your company, it may be tens of dozens. But those people are fallible. They're the same people that fat-fingered the FAA problem or the problem with Square are the same people that are now responsible for fixing that in the middle of a drill. And you drill, but the drill is not the same thing as real time. So the key reasons that we hear are that there's operator errors. They didn't recover from mistakes, or the mistakes are made during the recovery. The runbooks, which were a product of a point in time CMDB list or what application components were there, don't match what's there currently. They don't know how long it's going to take to recover. There's no actual way to put any kind of real-time number to that, because recovery is a manual task across teams, and they've not been able to complete it within time, and then they're always surprised. Well, that guy's not here anymore. That lady's not here today, or that particular set of servers was taken to the cloud. It's no longer the same locations. The scripts are no longer the same. The drill time continues to grow. The exposure in the media then happens on top of that, making it, as we saw, 10 times worse. And now the government has to respond. And all of this comes down to one thing, and that is the infrastructures today increase in complexity. and they do so faster than humans are able to adapt. But there is a better way. You know, we've been through this in other industries. We've been through this in other scenarios. On the left, you see the old assembly line where everybody had to show up, do their job, bolt their rivet, put their piece on, and it was dependent upon that manual intervention. Everybody that had a day job of DBA or sysadmin, or they had to manage the cloud, now they have two jobs. Now they're DR people. Now they're continuity patrol people. Now they're BCP people. Now they have three jobs. So now they have to run drills in their spare time or come in over the weekend and do these tabletop exercises and simulations. But none of that changes the fact that when disaster strikes, they may not be there, or like we said, those plans, the best laid plans, you know, necessarily only work until, you know, as Mike Tyson says, you get hit in the face. What you have to have, and what we've been able to do for companies over the last 11 years, is we've automated to become error-free and efficient. We've taken scripting out of the way in favor of low code and no code, and we support global enterprise resilience as software. But even we recognize this complexity is getting more and more and more than any company can handle. So what we've done, and an example here, just to offset the Southwest story, is we went to Delta in 2019. They had different outages, same story, caused by software outages from IT, and they had a fragmented DR management approach with flight cancellations, same terrible customer service with losses that ran into hundreds of millions of dollars. Sound familiar if you're at Southwest? The airline was looking for a unified approach to DR, so they deployed continuity patrol in 2019. Since then, they've had zero downtime. Zero downtime. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, that something hasn't happened. It means that they could switch over, fail over, and keep the operations going in minutes, and sometimes seconds, instead of hours. So it was invisible to their customers. 1,000 consecutive days of no flight cancellations, less than 1 hour of RTO, 83% reduction in the time it took. They went from 50 people to 5. 5 people now across all of Delta are responsible for resilience in DR. Think about that. Just the cost and the operational cost savings. 3 times automated failover. They can drill on demand in real time, press the button and print a report, get an audit report and see this. And they did 80 critical applications in 100 days across 14 major technology integrations. So you see the quote there from Delta CEO Ed Bastian. You can see exactly what he had to say about it. 0 flight cancellations. That's the goal. No one cares what your strategy is internally. They only care when the ATMs stop working, or when the flights don't run, or when the manufacturing shop floor can't get your device and people can't work. When people can't do their job or customers can't buy from you, that's all that matters, is how long does that take? And so the real question is, how do we, with increasing complexity, manage a global deployment with almost 0 people and 0 touch? Well, the answer there is generative AI. What is generative AI? What does it do? Have you guys used it? You've probably used it. If anyone's been out and used ChatGPT or used Midjourney, you know that you can create amazing things because the AI understands the entirety of the human language, the inflection points, the context of it. All these complex changes happen in moments, right? You can write an entire book in a minute. Why? Because we understand, you just type in a prompt and there's your response, because the context and the understanding is there to generate that. That's why they call it generative. It interprets complex changes in our product speeds greater than any human. By the time human beings begin to understand there's a problem, the software in continuity patrol has identified where it is, what action should be taken, what workflow should be supplied, and it's coming to you and saying, I've identified this problem. Would you like to take this action? Yes or no? I would like to take this action for you. Do you agree? That's the kind of back and forth you have. We'll show you that with Lisa and Dave here in a moment. In understanding that creates contextual responses in natural language. You don't have to be an IT person. You don't have to understand tech. All you need to know is these are my 10 or 5 or 3 key applications, and these are the ones that I want to manage and protect. So inside this platform, the same way that Chat GPT takes all of the different understanding from the internet and from the English language in order for you to create a prompt, and it just creates things. We have IP and libraries there for every vendor, every technology. We have thousands of workflows that we've proven across drills with other companies living in there that make up this foundational corpus of how this machine thinks. And I want to make a point. It's not connected to the internet. It lives within continuity patrol. There's no exposure. There's no security issues of going out to the cloud or having to even need the internet for this to work. It is self-contained inside continuity patrol. And we'll talk more about that if you want. But the goal here is to take all that complexity, extract it away, remove all the manual efforts in favor of talking to two people. So here you see the machine is looking and thinking all the things that are going across your environment. All you need to know is two words. You need to know Lisa and you need to know Dave. That's it. That's how simple this is. So who is Lisa and who is Dave? Well, Lisa is the assistant. She's the person that you speak to, and she handles and responds to all your queries in natural language. You say, hey, Lisa, what's going on with this application? Should we schedule a drill next Tuesday to make sure that everything's up and running? What's my current RTO here? What's the readiness for the components underneath this application? Is there anything I should know about? What's hanging out of the bus here? What needs to happen? And she'll tell you. And if she tells you and something needs to be, a workflow needs to be created or added, or you need to validate it, or you need to, you've added a component and you need to create something new, you can go into our libraries and she'll introduce you to Dave and say, Dave's the engineer. Dave is the person that will, again, in natural language and in understanding the processes, he actually acts as an engineer, writes the code, automates the functions, and then you can validate and test those. So these two people act as two halves of the same coin. One is the assistant telling you about your environment, what's happening, so you can make the right decisions in real time. The other one is actually managing, building, and enhancing your environment with workflows. And you'll see as we go forward. And again, this is independent of the internet or GPUs. This is on-premise deployment on a standard CPU. You don't need internet connection. You don't need cloud infrastructure. So you keep all your knowledge in-house. All your concerns related to security threats are addressed, and you get a seamless and secure approach. And again, instead of trying to go wrestle things between teams, or if you're a BCP person trying to, get information from IT and put it back in your incident plan, all of that is just so much pain. And the reality is, all it does is add risk and exposure. If you're an IT person, nobody wants to do DR. Nobody wants to do that. They want to give that off to something that can be tested and tried and readiness proven. An audit can be done. A drill on demand can be asked for in natural language, and it just happens so that they can do the job of optimizing the infrastructure, getting more top line revenue, the day job that makes the difference. Nobody wants to be concerned with if there's a problem. If there's an issue, it should already be addressed. If you don't have automation beforehand and you can't prove it, and you don't have a way of proving it over and over again, then you're not resilient. You don't have resilience. So what does it look like? What does 6.0 look like? Continuity Patrol look like with generative AI? So imagine you come into your dashboard. Here you see on the left side, you see all your key configured applications. You see your computed and configured RTO and RPO for these. You can see that we got it, 80% threshold, 5 minutes configured. And you see the interdependencies between them. Where are we? What components service that application? You see the services overview above it. But what I want to draw your attention to is you don't need to know where to click on the screen. There's a lot of things to understand. We're surfacing a lot of information here. All you need to know is you need to talk to Lisa. Hey, Lisa, can you provide me the last DR drill details? What happened? Lisa comes back and says, well, your last drill for the profile was conducted on the 24th of January. It had 17 workflow actions. We got no errors from that. And if you have any issues, let us know. And would you like to see a report? If you need me to print a report, what would you like to do next? Here's some options related to that. So if you want to look through business services by type, or you want to see what your nearest database is, or all those different things, you could do that. So you might want to say, okay, how about Lisa? We just brought in a new VMware. We just brought a new services in. Um, we got some new security needs. Please help me incorporate that into my um, DR strategy. She says, well, for that, I need to hand you off to Dave. So she says, my colleague Dave will provide the support and assist you with this code generation. So then Dave pops up and says, I'm Dave. I'll add the code and provide the support to you. He says, I'm going to help you generate the necessary script to update your host name. So here's the code. He generates it, creates it. And he says, okay, by the way, all you got to do is change host name and server name to the actual names. Let me know if there's anything else can help assist you with. Think about the time that's saved. You don't have to go chase down the person who has the permissions to do it. You don't have to find somebody to write the code. You don't have to test the code because it can be tested within this environment. All this is done with a simple natural language discussion between you and Lisa or Dave if something needs to be managed or created. So here you see the workflow configuration. This is similar to what you've seen in previous versions. You know, here's a workflow best practices. We're switching over a set of SQL databases. You'll notice that one of our patents, our proprietary patents, are this idea of doing things in parallel. So bringing things up based on interdependency together at the same time, which is one of the secrets for how we collapse the time, the RTO time, so by 80%. So we can bring these up together. The only challenge is, again, the complexity. Well, Dave's listening. Dave's thinking about these workflows continually and how to optimize them. So here you see, he says, hey, you know what you could do? You've added this SQL Server group here. You could actually add that to the group below it and save doing that as a serial step. Now, I want to make a point here. If you're a human with a run book, there's no such thing as parallel. You can't do your thing until the team prior to you has completed their thing. And the next team after you has to get validation from you that you've done your thing. So that means that everything happens like a bucket brigade. There is no orchestration of 30, 40, 50 people doing 40, 50 different tasks at once. There is no 15 sysadmins all playing pianos and entering commands at the same time. With our product, because of the proprietary patent we have for parallel recovery, we understand the interdependencies. We have written the workflow so that things can be done without conflict in parallel. And that's the point of DR readiness, is to run the drill and to prove that. And before, you had to run the drills and prove that. Now, you say, Lisa, can you please run a drill and validate this, 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 and this? And she does. And she brings that report back to you. So I think that's the key. I could spend the next hour explaining how Lisa and Dave do it, but without getting into how generative AI works, they just work, right? Lisa and Dave just makes it happen. So a couple other things we want to show you here as we go through this is we have visualized the entire resiliency map, multi-locations, multiple operational services. So more than just managing at the applications level, what is the actual topology for all your operational services and availability of those? You can see them at a glance. You can see what's happening, where things are going from, where they're going to. All of those things are there. You can, you can always just ask Lisa to show you this or tell you this in natural language. But if you want to see it visually, we have updated with the most resilient view of the entire planet. So if you've got things mapped to and we'll draw your attention up here at the left or the right-hand side to Cloud Connect. This idea of managing multi-cloud, multi-locations, we don't care where things are. We don't care, what assets are in cloud, which assets are on purpose, what are on premise, what you've got in the mainframe, what you're doing, with your legacy stuff. It's all the same because we're managing it holistically. We're managing it organically across every component, every vendor, every technology. We're mapping that complexity in real time, and we're surfacing up through these bots so you can have this natural language conversation. If you look at the readiness, you get a snapshot view here. Again, Lisa could tell you this, or you can go find it. Here are the different objects that are around that are either ready or not ready that support the key applications. So if you're looking at, what servers are down, what execution failures might happen, is there unattended workflows, is there dependencies that haven't been mapped? You can see that, at a bird's eye level. Or again, it'll surface up and Lisa will say, hey, you've got 3 components here that need a business check. I need to run checks on these workflows. Maybe there's some elements here that you need Dave to come in and close the gap. and add a workflow to. But the goal here is there's a nature between the as is and to be. So once we understand your architecture, once we understand the infrastructure and all the components, what happens then is it becomes a natural thing to look and see how ready you are. So all this is available inside that. And you say, well, what about the people side of things? Well, we've incorporated that as well. So here you see the SMS and mail notifications and the layers of management to take a business decision. So imagine that Lisa surfaces and says, we have a problem, a real-time problem with these particular bank of databases or this particular set of VMs, they're offline. Someone needs to make a decision on that. You can put that escalation matrix directly in the tool and notify those people and have those conversations and decisions back with the bots and have the bots answer, hey, run this workflow. Here's my recommendation, Mr. Karthik, Mr. Ragul. Here's what I need. Here's what I think we should do. We should switch over. We should fail over. Do you want me to fail over? If you say yes, Lisa affects that failover based on the drills and the readiness that's already in place, based on the workflows that Dave is managing and creating. Does that make sense? Now, what about, this is one of my favorite tools, and it'll be one of your favorite tools the first time you touch this and use it, because, you know, the situation today with drilling, I don't think anybody on this call has been surprised by this, is you have to pick a time on the calendar. You have to make people leave their wives, their children, come into work on a Saturday. And these are some of the biggest banks we work with. Spend Saturday and Sunday doing what accounts to, you know, technology inventory and testing. And most of the time, you know, you can only do so much during that period of time. So you got to deselect a certain percent of applications because they're just not time. So you pick one this time, which means that means another weekend for more people to do more things manually. All that's gone. Now you simply have Lisa say, hey, Lisa, I'd like to set a drill time to drill this application or this set of components for readiness. Okay, goes into the calendar. She says, we're going to do this between 9:31 and 15:15. That's a military time. And we're going to set that up here. We're going to notify these people that this is happening. And then we're going to do the drill on this time. So that calendar and drill activity is actually baked in for everyone to see, everyone to be aware of it, that they monitor it. They get notifications of what's happening. They don't have to leave their time and their families. If there's a problem, it'll get surfaced with a recommendation of what needs to occur. So all of that is there. You can see that from a BCM drilling activity. And then there's the standard, you know, this is very much coming out of our legacy softwares. What is the workflow execution by profile? So you establish a profile that has multiple workflows in it. Those workflows contain multiple objects that have to run inside those workflows. And you can see them run visually. You can, you know, pause them, step through them, reload them, abort them, all those kinds of things. So but each of those workflows has the right security profiles attached from AD or whatever your SAM-based security model is. All of that's there. And now you're getting a time view and a log viewer as well. So you can watch all of these things happen as they occur visually. But again, and I want to stress this again, why would you? I mean, the more we work with this, the more you understand it's a lot easier to just say, hey, Lisa, show me the workflows under profile one, and are they all working? And are all the infra objects there? And is everything DR ready? Why would you do it any other way? And then you have drift management. So managing the business services, when you make a change, you do upgrades, you have patches. When you're on production, DR, keeping things in sync, making sure things are in sync. All that drift management is a key capability in the platform as well. We can surface those impacts and tell you again using our AI bots to manage any of these drifts that needs to take place. So it's another inclusive part. You can't have a holistic platform between cloud and on-prem unless you're managing drift. And that brings me to Cloud Connect. So Cloud Connect is exactly what you think it is. All the major cloud services, AWS, Azure, Oracle, Google, all of them are self-contained and managed inside our operational resilience. So if you take an app and you move some of its, you move the assets to the cloud, you move the components to the cloud, or you have a mix, that Cloud Connect allows us to manage those seamlessly and across multiple clouds. Most companies today, they back up one cloud with another cloud. So that works too. show you that ability. But again, all that is managed again inside that generative AI network. All the reporting, all the pre-built reports that you want, they're there as well. You know, you can look them. You can do business services. You can do user activity, infra object. You can go drill up or drill down. The key I want to make here is you're not writing these reports. You push the button. They're generated. They're ready for an auditor. They're ready to, you know, for Ernst & Young to look at. Whoever you got in your environment that wants to see these, they can see down to the step of each action, each command, and all the way up to the macro view, which is what are the services that actually fired and in what time to give the RTO for restore back to that application. So what makes this possible under the goals of generative AI is we have 3 global real-time resilience patents. The ability to quantify business and financial impact, the ability to automate the processes, that's our second global patent, and the ability to do that recovery time in parallel. Those 3 came together with our investment in generative AI, and now we have a holistic operational resilience platform, and we can continually improve with each iteration, each drill, each interaction, each conversation that you have with Dave and Lisa. And again, we manage every vendor, every technology, everything that's there that you can name. I mean, we've not ran into anything at any layer of this of the software. So that goes from the network, the storage, the OS, through the database, all your virtual machines. And we do this without scripting. We do it without agents. You don't have to put anything on any device. There is no manual efforts here. You can drill on demand. We did over 100,000 drills last year. And then complete monitoring in real time and that parallel recovery mixed with our IP of all our libraries and all the commands and all the workflows working seamlessly inside this environment. So what do we promise? What do you get? What's the least value you should expect? 80% RTO. Drill on demand, just ask Lisa to run a drill, she'll run it. And if she says things are missing, Dave will close the loop. He'll go find the assets and create the workflow. 50% reduction in operating cost, reduction in complexity. I would say that's closer to 90 with this latest release, but we'll try to be honest here and not overpromise. But I mean, think about it. All the things that you needed people to do, build workflows, all the things you needed them to do to deploy, all the things you need to continually deploy and test. That's all done now through conversation. And the last thing is the reports come out and they're ready for ISO compliance. So I've got, you know, that's the essence of 6.0. It is an absolute game changer. You're the first folks to see it. I know there's probably going to be some questions. And with that, I have one more video to show, but what I'd like to do is, you guys got questions that you're thinking about, I've got a little 3-minute video here that I'd like to show you. And when we get done with it, it's basically just the live version of what I've been talking about for all the other parts of the application. And if you can't hear this, I'm going to talk. The new era has begun in operational resiliency. I'm going to mute the sound on it because it's hard to see that and hear that over a webinar. But it is all about this idea of autonomous orchestration. There's a, you know, think about if you're a BCP professional, being able to get what you want without having to ask anybody in IT other than Lisa and Dave, other than the bots. And then doing the testing, going back to IT and get them to validate it, get them to see that it works and that it was done autonomously without having to interfere with all the work that they're doing. That's really the change. That's the paradigm shift where you're in control, where you're able to move at your speed and get the results you want. Here you see the federated access, you know, no matter how many different, you know, if you're using SAML, whatever you might be doing here to log in, but all of that guided workflow creation and autonomous decision making. Here you see Dave actually going and helping, you know, he's building the workflow. You just say, I want an infrastructure switch over workflow. And it says, all right, I'll generate that for you. He looks at all your infrastructure components across all these layers. Notice on the left here, you've got all those different products and all those different layers of the OS, right? So you got OS is here, you got storage, Nutanix, hypervisors, database, cloud. It's all the same to us, whatever layer it might be. The key is that in the past, you would draw the workflow and then you would have to test it. Now Dave is optimizing it using best practice and what we've done over and over again with the different vendors and technologies and all those IP-based libraries. He generates that workflow, and then he can test it. Lisa can run the DR drill, test it, and say, okay, we're 80% there. Your RTO is this. Can we get it better? Can we make it better? So it's a self-healing, self-deployment, managed environment. Here you see service availability. You can go in, if you want to click, if you want some of the 50,000 clicks, and frankly, I don't know, we're lazy or what, but what we're doing is over time we realize we could go into these screens, we could learn the screens, we could click on the screens, but we could just as easily not do that and have the information come to us by saying, tell me what the service availability is, Lisa, on Oracle Rack. And she says, well, right now it's at a 48-minute configured threshold. Okay, I didn't have to click anything for that. It just surfaced. Hey, can you print me a report on that? Sure, I'll send it to you as a PDF. Why would you click anywhere? If you want to get the details here on the main screen, if you want to see the overview of the drill and the services and all that, we put it all in one piece of glass. You'll notice drift management's up here. You notice you've got all of your interdependencies listed, any challenges or alerts that are bubbled up. Again, all the kind of classic enterprise software views are there. But what you learn is once you have Alexa or Siri or one of those guys, and they're able to talk.
I don't know that.
Yeah, there's my Alexa. And once you're able to have those things in context, understanding every nuance of your environment, and it does take time to map and bring those components in and configure them and monitor them. But once that's done, you don't want to click through these things. You don't need to click through these things. And then when going from there over into the next view, here you see that when you just click through the application, you can see what the dependencies are, what the functions are. Did we exceed expectations? Are we configured, under configured? What are the services that map into that? Here's let me stop that. That's sexy too. How many drills did we complete? How many were executed? Did we meet RTO? Did we exceed it? What were successful? What would we get aborted? So you get a view of all the drills that took place for that application. Were they successful or not? Again, the bots can do this for you. But if you want to go look, it's all there. Then you see the operational analytics, right? You can see here at the analytics view, what is the readiness? What is the overall failure? What is your availability and analytics overall? Here you see 100% of services affected today. So you can get all that health summary views. If you're one of these folks that needs to trust but verify, we got all the verification here for you. The key is after you look at this about 10 times, you realize, well, I'd like to just ask. I'd just like to walk in my office and say, what is our current operational readiness? And she says, well, we've got 34 things configured, 24 workflows. We executed 28 of them. 32 of them have failed. We need to talk about the ones that are outside the walls of RTO. Okay, what do we do about that? Well, let's look at those workflows. Dave, build me the workflow, test this workflow, run the drill. And I think I'm beating that to death, but to me, this is the paradigm shift. Okay. And then I mentioned this earlier, showed you earlier, the resiliency mapping with the topology and all the different locations. So here you see, this is actual running DR sites and a prime site, 3 different places between Dubai and India. And then this is the resiliency view for a particular service and the different relationships between the components as they support services, as they support one of those particular applications. And the interface goes on and on. You can see, here's where we're executing the workflows. You can see them working. You can see the log view in real time. All those things just happen together. The DR calendar, pick your time for the drill and run it. And you can see we're just picking the drill time. But one thing's important there is you'll notice that it ties into what profile. So when you take these workflows, you can give them a profile name, like switch over all virtual machines from Oracle to Google Cloud, or from Google Cloud to Amazon. So whatever that work profile name is with that securities that goes with it, that package of workflows and configurations, you can just schedule those and run those. And you can also have Lisa run it for you. Once you figure that out, you probably won't click anymore. I think that's the theme of this entire webinar is just stop clicking. Why would you? Start talking and let generative AI complete the workflows, test the workflows, test the reels, give you the real-time understanding. Here's real-time insights. And this is cyber recovery, and we kind of glossed over that. We have a full built-in cyber resiliency, cyber recovery capability, along with all the things you need to do to manage your vaults in order to create automation in the way things are set up, rules for air gaps and all those things. That's all key. That's just another scenario or use case of the technology. So it's all right here, ready to be used. You can see down here, whatever your cyber recovery solution is, we can check your air gaps in real time. We can build the rules and manage that as well. Guess what? Dave can do that. Dave can do it. You don't have to do it. You can tell Dave, okay, Dave, I need to set a rule to open up the vault here and close it here. It does it. And then, of course, you can test as much as you want with drilling and Lisa. I mentioned drift management around changes, consistency between the different instances, between DR and production. You can see that, how it manages and keeps that same. Now, this is an interesting piece I didn't talk about. This is license management. So the way our stuff's set up from a license perspective, we're going to need to know each component and each service that manages each of these key applications. But are they covered? Are we live with them? Is everything working? Is there anything that's not covered? Is there anything that's hanging, that's not being managed, I should say, not being monitored? This lets you know what that is. It tells you, okay, you made an acquisition and you brought in 50 new servers and 100 new VM machines. Are those being monitored and managed? Well, if they aren't, we need to get them inside the environment view so that generative AI can make that part of the understanding and look at the different dependencies and make sure that everything works when you run your drills. So there's a built-in license manager for when you push and pull different components in and out of your applications. You know, I don't need to go into details on that. Here you see they're managing the different components at the different layers. And of course, all the customized reports, all you can eat, push a button out of the box. The reporting is there for drills, for operational services. Here you see the profile name. This is one of the profiles that ran a series of workflows to get you to that level of RTO. So we have about 18, 17 minutes left in the hour. That is the conclusion of the slides and the presentations and the videos. At this point, I just want to drive full circle back to one thing, and that is you've got two people to talk to now. One of them will build all of your workflows in your environment, and the other one will tell you exactly what's going on and what the status is. So I could teach you 30 more screens and 40 more parts of the application, or I could simply say, meet Lisa and Dave, take this into your environment, try it out. Pick a couple applications, let's deploy the foundational software. It will understand and will help you, once it understands the components and the different elements that are supporting that application, it will manage and build those workflows with Dave based on best practice. And then Lisa will sit there and monitor it, do your drills, your readiness, your calendars. She'll tell you when things start to drift. All those things you can ask her and you'll get that information from. So when you see these screens here, you ask and you get the answer. You don't have to know where to click. You don't know what to do. It's all coming and surfacing to you. So here's the results of a drill and a workflow. And there's your current RPO, current configured RPO, all bubbling up to you. And then if you say, well, okay, I need to change a host name or a server name, Dave says, all right, I'll just write that for you. I added the server. Here you go. Here's the script. So you can learn all the other stuff. But what we find now is that people really do focus on, it's almost an exception to the rule, 99, 98, somewhere in there is either Dave or Lisa. And then if they don't understand it, we're going to make them understand it. There's some context they don't have. We'll add that context. But with that, I'll stop. I'm sure there's some Q&A that we'd like to do. So I'm sure many of y'all have ideas and questions.
Wonderful, thanks. And if, again, you do have any questions for Sean, you can locate the question panel on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll get to as many of these as we can. So jump right in here. Kathy asked, same with Chat GPT and etc. How do you ensure the AI inputs or assistants are accurate? And should humans still verify accuracy?
That's a great question. Super question. So obviously, that's a great question. When we think about humans, Humans do one thing really well, and that is they have the ability to discern. They have the ability to discern if the answers are correct. So Lisa comes back with facts. She comes back with knowledge in context based on what you ask her. If you ask her a question and she doesn't have the facts or the context, you're not going to get the right answer, or you're going to get an incomplete answer. At that point, you can drill in and ask a second question, a third question. But the goal here is to get this as complete as possible. It does take time. There will be some learning curve as as components are added, services are configured, workflows are built. There's no getting around. If I bring anything into your home to manage it, it has to learn the lay of the land and all the infrastructures. So there is a learning curve as those things are monitored and configured and discovered. But once that's done, I would argue that it's 100 times faster and 100 times smarter than any one person. So what humans do when they get this configured to the right level, they're looking at exception based. So hey, this particular component is not configured, or this workflow had an issue, and that's where that escalation matrix comes in. And you can, you spend your time making sure that, hey, I want to run a drill on these 5 applications. Did it run? Was there any outliers? Why was there an outlier? Why didn't this component fire? What was going on with the service? Are we missing something? So it becomes instead of what do we do if this happens? It's, I know what happens. If this happens, I know exactly what's going to occur, what actions are going to be taken, and I've ran that 10, 15, 20 times. I know we can be up in 5 minutes, and I have a working relationship with Lisa and Dave to make that happen, because it isn't a conversation that we have when an event occurs. It's an ongoing conversation of the drilling and the trust. So once one of the problems with the software is with any of this enterprise DR software is there's so many ways to get it wrong. There's so many clicks that can happen. I would be honest with you, our founders, they don't know all the screens and all the different clicks, right? So no one does. But if you can abstract all that complexity away into just what you need to accomplish, that's the goal. And a human being can be very discerning about, I don't need to do everything. I need to do the thing that matters to keep this application going. So hopefully we've abstracted the complexity and made it a lot easier for humans to do their job.
All right, question from Karthik here. If I have my BIA done in another tool, ServiceNow, for example, can the continuity patrol get dependency mappings in ServiceNow?
It's a tremendous question. If the short answer is yes. So we can import those just the same way we import a run book. What we'll do is validate that. We'll make sure that those dependency mappings are accurate. Again, that may be a consulting effort. I want to talk about timing on this a little bit, because I asked our founders, I said, exactly how long would it take for someone to have this up and running? They said 3 months to 4 months. So if you have this stuff mapped already, I'd reduce that by 20 or 30% if you're sure of the accuracy. But you're going to have to pick, you have to be really clear that these CMDBs and the different accuracy there, sometimes things do drift. But that 3 months is where we take that stuff from, ServiceNow, from Fusion, from wherever we can get the run books, spreadsheets, and we'll do that validation. We'll take the configuration dependencies if they're there, we'll validate them. But about 3 months later, you're in this autonomic environment. You're in an environment now where things can get written back into ServiceNow, because we know in real time, we tested them and they're accurate. We just ran a drill. We looked at the change, we looked at the drift, and we can write that documentation back the other way because we're dealing with things as they occur in real time. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. Is your CMDB built with agents on servers? How do you handle collecting information on managed services like AWS, RDS, DBs, etc.?
Great question. In general, I'll answer it, and we may have some technical people on the call that we probably want to push that off to a second question, because this is really more of an unveiling. But in essence, there are no agents. There's no scripting. What we do is we look at the SNMP. We look at the different protocols that allow for information to flow back and forth freely. And again, this is just resilience. So we're only looking at health, we're looking at status, and we're looking at dependency. So we're looking at, what is the cluster of services that need to support the uptime of a particular application? What's the footprint underneath it? And are those components alive? And are they talking? And are they healthy? So that's really the extent of what we're taking on with resilience. So in that case, you don't need agents, you don't need scripting.
All right, I think you answered part of this question, but the first part is still open. So what are the typical challenges in transforming from people-led to AI-led recovery? And then, of course, the second part was how much time and effort. You answered with 3 months, I believe.
I would say, and this is just me, frankly, when I heard 3 months, I said 3 months, and I was told, yes, 3 months. So I'm telling you 3 months with confidence because I was told that by our teams with confidence. And that has to do with, everything's laying around. It's just not being actively managed. If you can't monitor, then you can't manage. So we're monitoring in real time. So once we get the words and we're able to, put those details into continuity patrol, then things can be managed proactively. And that's what the 3 months is for. But the difference, to your point, your question is from people to machine. And I want to make sure I say that one more time, Bob, how you worded that.
What are the typical challenges in transforming from people-led to AI-led recovery?
Well, I'll say the primary issue with people-led recovery is that people are doing it. That people, well-meaning people, if something really goes bad, if there's an earthquake, if there's a terrorism event, they go home and take care of their families. They go home and they make sure that their grandparents are fine and that their pets are fine. And somewhere down that list, at about number 62, is I have a responsibility to fail over that database. I should try to log into work. Oh my goodness, the internet's not available. Well, what is available? The highway's not available. The internet is not only not there, but there's no sign that it's going to come back. So you've got to have something that doesn't have any other dependencies. I would say in the world of humans, we all have dependencies. And frankly, we have dependencies on our hearts beating, our cells continuing to breathe, our ability to communicate with each other. Those are the things that cause multi-hour disruption, right? It wasn't that Southwest didn't have a plan. Southwest had a whole team of people. When we walked into Delta, I showed you the numbers. I think it was 85 people to 5 or 90 to 5. 85 people whose job it was to prevent a disruption. The problem was if a disruption happened, the biggest problem was that those 85 people had to somehow magically turn into the Avengers and do things in milliseconds across thousands of servers and multiple layers in the environment. Someone that had to know cloud and mainframe. Someone had to know Oracle and SQL. Someone had to know. Nobody knows it all. And so the challenge in people-led recovery is the people, and they're all well-meaning, but either they're not available or no one has the insight and the detail in order to do things in milliseconds and nanoseconds and to do things in parallel so that you get a recovery in minutes instead of hours. And after 2 hours, Reuters, CNBC gets a hold of it, and now it's out of your hands. Now it's a global news story. People are hurt. Your brand's hurt. Your stock price is hurt. Your CEO has to talk about it. You have to get on the next earnings call and talk about what he's going to do to remediate it. It's a very small thing at Southwest that cost them $1 billion. I bet you they would give anything if they could have failed over that silly crew package app in 5 minutes instead of 6 hours. So that's what we're saying. If here it's as easy to say, hey, Lisa, I would like to move this application to our backup site in DR. She says, are you sure? And you say yes, and it's done. It's done in whatever configured time it takes for the workflows to fire to change DR to prod and prod to DR.
All right, next question for Rick here. How do you interface with OpenShift services running Kubernetes?
Well, I got to tell you, Kubernetes is a good friend of mine. We used to sit around like Jeremiah the Bullfrog and drink his wine. That's just one more technology, one more enveloped capability that we use. In this case, it'd probably be API based, RESTful API, or it would be But all those protocols and all those technologies, and I may not have said this at enough depth, we have built over the years, over the last 10, 11 years, we have well-formed libraries where all of those commands are the same as if you were a sysadmin sitting at a console and entering those commands manually. Those commands are now living in these IP-based libraries and these workflows that says, okay, you would go out there and pick Kubernetes, you pick that service along with whatever components that you want to manage, and it would just, that workflow in the past, you would build it using that library. Today, you'd ask Dave to generate it. Dave would go into our workflows and best practices, build it, and say, okay, this is ready to test. So it's that's a paradigm shift. I used to have a tech guy get on the horn with you and say, well, he'll explain how we interface with Kubernetes. Now I'd say, hey, Dave, why don't you build a workflow for Kubernetes and let's test it? So that's the paradigm shift. But it is a heritage-based thing. If we didn't have the IP and the libraries for these technologies and components, we wouldn't be able to use generative AI. But we do. So now we're leveraging all that IP so that instead of you having to write the code or even do anything, Dave will just pull the workflows up, generate it for failover, switchover, whatever it might be, and then we can all test it together just by watching it.
All right, next question from Jason here. Does this tie into messaging services like PagerDuty or other mass messaging services?
That's a super question, and it ties into all standard based messaging, SMS, all your different host protocols for envelope-based message, MMS, all the things you would expect. So the short answer is yes.
All right, wonderful. Well, that wraps up the Q&A. There are several very, very in-depth questions that have come in that I will pass them over to Sean. Him and the Perpetuuiti team will answer and follow up with everyone after the webinar is ended. So any parting words here today, Sean?
Thank you for that. I want to thank everybody again for being the first on the planet to take a look at this. This is obviously an entirely new thing. Comments from our customers are, this is a time machine, this is a UFO. And so the key right now is to get your hands on it, to actually prove it. We're in a very unique spot here at Perpetuuiti because we have the ability to come out and do a POC and let you see this. Actually have you pick an application, pick a set of components, try this, taste it, and see that Lisa and Dave are generative AI and they can manage your environment, they can build your environment, and you can have a much different experience in holistic operational resilience instead of, frankly, trying to play catch up, right? There's a very much a reactive world and there's a proactive world. And we want to get you to that proactive world. So give us an opportunity to come and let you taste it, play with it, see it. That's all we're looking to do. And I appreciate you giving us the opportunity to share all this hard work and all this innovation with you. So thank you for your time.
All right, wonderful. Thanks again, everyone, for your attendance here today. We hope you gather some great information from today's webinar. I'd like to personally thank Sean for his time here today, as well as Perpetuuiti for sponsoring today's webinar. We will be emailing everyone a link to the recording. You may view that recording as frequently as you wish or share it with your peers. If you have any additional questions, please contact Disaster Recovery Journal. Thank you again, and this now ends today's webinar. Thanks, everyone.